ahead and join me for our invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, so thankful for the opportunity to serve, thankful for each of our health. Pray for those that are in need of care. Lord, I just lift up this board. I pray for our deliberations. I pray for our hearts and our minds to be focused on serving our students, our families, and our staff. Watch over us, keep everyone safe in their travels. In Christ's name, amen. All right. Board notifications. You have notification items in your package, 9A through C. New hires, resignations, and public information request report. Anything you want reviewed, pulled, or questions on? All right, if there are none, we'll continue. Item 10 is our consent agenda, 10A through 10D. Anything you want pulled for review? If not, I would consider a motion.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
So moved, Julie McLaughlin.
Second.
Second, Jeff Wood. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, item 11, discussion and possible action on the selection of delegates and alternate for the 2024 Delegate Assembly to the TASB Convention. You have the notes in your binder. At this point would be open to suggestions for those willing to serve and be a part of that convention on behalf of the Lovejoy ISD Board.
I'm more than happy to volunteer to go, as long as it fits in my schedule. I actually don't recall the exact dates, but I believe it will. If you'll have me.
I'm looking, I'm trying to get there. Do you, somebody else have it?
It's September 28th. I see it now in the minutes.
28. So Marvin's volunteered to serve on September 28th, schedule permitting. I guess, Marvin, if for some reason you can't, do we have the ability to select an alternate, Amy, or send someone as an alternate?
Yeah, actually, right now, we usually try to choose somebody as an alternate.
So, okay, great. Is there anybody else that might be able to serve as an alternate if Marvin's unavailable?
I got the opportunity to go to San Antonio a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I would like to do it again in the future, but this year the calendar does not work for me, so.
Mark, Jeff, Julie?
I'd love to go, but I can't travel
Okay.
that time.
So we have,
I'll put my name in the year after that.
so we have a delegate and an alternate. Marvin, alternate. Amy, thank you for those volunteering. All in favor? I guess we better get a motion first.
I move that we nominate Marvin Bobo as our delegate and Amy Smith as our alternate for the 2024 Delegate Assembly to the TASB Convention.
So move, Julie. Second, Jason. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself.
Are we at public hearing yet?
All right, item 12. At this time, I will open the public hearing regarding the 2024-2025 budget and proposed tax rate. Ms. Taylor, do we have any public hearing comments at this time?
President Owens, there are no comments related to the public hearing at this time.
All right, Cabinet Member, you may proceed with your presentation.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Cordell. Tonight, we'll be sharing our final presentation of the budget before bringing it to you for consideration for adoption. And we'll be presenting on the work put into developing the 24-25 budget. The process began with managing and navigating through the early challenges presented in the current 23-24 budget, and continued with each budget workshop starting in December of 2023. While we sorted through the changes in budget assumptions that guided us through the process of making tough budgetary decisions while keeping at the forefront the priority of maintaining at least 90 days of fund balance in 25-26. So the district entered into the 23-24 year with an adopted budget with a slight surplus of 422. We knew going into this year the district was experiencing declining enrollment. We budgeted for 4,105 students on average and an average daily attendance of 3,922 for the 23-24 school year. We monitored enrollment every day during the summer leading up to the start of school. And we started the year with slightly higher than 4,030 enrolled students. We were intentional and strategic in our approach by freezing hiring for vacant grade level positions with lower enrollment through the summer. And we budgeted an average daily attendance percentage of 95.6. But we ended the year with 3,858 students in average daily attendance with an 88 percentage of 95.9. By not hiring for the vacant positions along with the improved ADA percentage allowed us to offset some of the decreased revenue associated with the enrollment decline. While navigating the district enrollment challenge, the district was also faced with a new challenge due to the administrative change to the student attendance accounting handbook. This change resulted in a reduction in revenue of over $1 million. The district was faced early on with approximately a $1.6 million deficit. And through the mindset developed during the financial challenge of 2021, the district identified areas of savings and revenue generating opportunities through one-time grants, facility rentals, and investment income, resulting in a nearly $2 million savings to position the district to end the year with a $414,000 surplus. So our budget development journey began in December of 23 when we officially kicked off the 24-25 budget process. Due to the district's declining enrollment and lack of additional funding by way of increasing the basic allotment, the district faced multiple years of growing deficit budgets under the assumption the district would remain status quo with their operating expenses. This resulted in a drop in fund balance to below 50 days after the 25-26 school year. As a result, our goal for this process was to develop a budget that would allow the district to remain financially healthy with at least 90 days of fund balance at the end of 25-26. And in order for the district to accomplish this goal, we had to identify operational efficiencies beginning in 24-25 and not wait until 25-26. We shared throughout the process the areas we identified as operational savings, which are listed here on this slide. These identified adjustments will result in an annual savings of $1.8 million and a cumulative over 2 years, $3.6 million. Also during the process, we made a change on how we approach and viewed the days of fund balance and how we calculated it. Since recapture is essentially a pass-through payment, we adjusted our calculation to exclude recapture from operating expenses. The change in this approach, the work to restore and build a healthy fund balance since 2021, the continued efforts to explore revenue generation opportunities and operating efficiencies in the current year, and the operational efficiencies identified for the next 2 years allows the district to incorporate the 4% payroll increase for employees that are on the teacher scale, a 2% increase for all other employees, a 2% inflationary increase in supplies and materials, and a 50% increase from $275 to $325 a month in our medical contribution into our proposed 24-25 budget. The increase in the medical contribution does result in the district covering roughly 99% of the increased cost for a majority of our staff. So after incorporating all the assumptions we just shared here, we are proposing a deficit budget and the use of fund balance for the 24-25 year, resulting in a decline in days from 156 to 131 and ending the 25-26 year with 88 days. Work remains to be done for the 25-26 school year to get to the 90 days or more, while we continue to prioritize staff compensation and enrollment and attendance, but we will continue to explore revenue-generating ideas and find operational efficiencies to get us there. So here we are required to present a proposed functional budget in this format for each of our 3 required funds. So we have the general fund, student nutrition fund, and our debt service fund. So this slide here presented reflects the required format that illustrates how the district is budgeting for each of the functional areas. As it relates to the $300,000 contingency that we built into the budget, we have prorated on a percentage of overall cost for each of the functional line items, and distributed that $300,000 based off of that percentage. It does exclude, we're not distributing the contingency through, in the functions 91, which is recapture, 93 is shared service agreement, 95, 99, and these are all established costs that we are aware of that we do not need to plan for with contingencies. So here's our student nutrition budget. We are anticipating a balanced budget for the 24-25 year. Within this budget, it does include the 2% increase for all staff. We are anticipating a decrease in overall percentage due to our decrease in enrollment, which you'll see that is resulting in lower revenue and lower cost compared to what we're seeing at the end of this year. In order for us to get to the balanced budget, we did have to, we are presenting and proposing in a later agenda to increase the meal prices by 25 cents per meal. And then we also had to eliminate 6 of our 10 unfilled positions to balance the budget. And then here's our debt service budget. It's going to be a balanced budget as well. This also includes the most recent bond sale, the 9.5, as our first payments going into next year. This also does include additional payments to pay off towards additional principal in our 2014 bonds. So of the $18.7 million of debt service, it breaks out to about $14.1 in principal and $4.6 in interest cost. So here's our timeline. So tonight we're going to present for you to consider approval of our 24-25 budget for the 3 different funds. And then we'll also bring forward for your consideration the compensation plan, and then also the student nutrition meal rate increase. And at this time, we are maintaining our current tax rate in our budget, which is 1.2575, of which 0.7575 is for M&O and the 0.5 for INS. Once we submit all of the taxable values for the current year, at the end of July, we'll get a new updated maximum compressed rate in August, which we will bring forward for the board to adopt the new rate. So at this time, I'll take any
Any
additional
questions for Thomas on the budget presentation?
I just have a comment, really, and I think some of this was expressed at the workshop we recently had, but I know, Thomas, it's a team effort, and I just want to applaud you and the team for taking a $1.6 million deficit and then within one school year turning that into a $414,000 surplus, because I know how difficult that would have been to do, and so I'm really thankful that you guys worked so hard to be able to do that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that I know we talked about it in October, but that change to the student attendance handbook that took away our ability to charge tuition came from left field. We did not expect that. It's not part of our budget, and it was something that the administration rose to the occasion before. But I appreciate the journey. I think this has been 8 months now, 8 months of budget workshops to get to this point. And so I appreciate you explaining all the individual components for us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Thomas?
One comment on the proposed 24-25 deficit budget. I believe this is the first time that I can remember having to adopt a deficit budget, and I understand it. I think it just speaks to where we are in the funding formulas and that we need to continue to work towards a better long-term solution, because obviously that's not sustainable long-term, but it is where we are right now.
I just want to reiterate, there was a lot of work that happened in prior years that allowed us to even have this choice as a deficit budget this year. And so I want to applaud the administration for the work that they've done prior years. starting in 2021 to get us to this point. So this future forward planning that we're doing is the reason why we're able to accomplish where we are today.
Couldn't say that any better. In '21, we were real challenge to meet payroll, and we tasked administration and the board with providing a solution, increasing our number of days in fund balance to allow us to have options. And fortunately, as you stated accurately, we have options. And passing a $2.3 million deficit budget is not exciting, but it is the alternative. Had we not taken those measures 2 years ago to look forward to today, would not have been possible. So, thank you for the work, the hard work. Any other questions for Thomas before I close the public
Yeah, and I
hearing?
just have one more compliment to give. I want to applaud Katie and the whole entire cabinet, because I was on the board when we passed the budget in 2020. I don't think we started budget workshops seriously until April or May. April, probably, so 2 months out. Part of that was COVID and the fallout from that. But having all these workshops, the forward look ahead, and all the detail provided, almost every meeting and every workshop meeting has made the entire budget approval process light years less chaotic than what it was in prior years, prior to 2021. So again, I'm appreciative.
So with that, I move that we act, not,
If there are no other questions, I'll close the public hearing. All right, item 15, consider an act on adopting the 24-25 budget and proposed tax rate. Mr. Willman.
Okay, so it is the recommendation of the administration that the board trustees adopt the budget and proposed tax rate as presented.
Julie, would you like to make that motion?
I'm sorry, I was early.
That's okay. I like efficiency.
I move that we adopt the 2024-2025 budget and proposed tax rate as presented.
So moved, Julie McLaughlin.
Second.
Second, Marvin Bobo and Mark Wheelis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, item 16, consider and act on the 24-25 TASB Risk Management Fund Program renewal. Mr. Willman.
Okay, so good evening. So now that we have officially adopted the 24-25 general fund budget, we have our first major big purchase for the year. Per CH Local, the board delegates to the superintendent the authority to make budgeted purchases for goods or services. However, any single budgeted purchase of goods or services that cost $75,000 or more, regardless of whether the goods or services are competitively purchased, shall require board approval before a transaction may take place. So tonight we are presenting for board consideration of the district's auto, property, liability, and cybersecurity coverage, as well as the workers' compensation for the 24-25 year. The coverage will begin on July 1st of 24 and run through June 30th of 25. I just want to highlight that as part of the attachment to the executive summary, it lists out the property coverage limits and a list of all the property that is covered alongside the assessed value. So the property coverage limit was determined based on a property value assessment completed in May of 2021. So we are aware that a lot has changed, especially as it relates to the cost of construction since 21. So we do have scheduled for Monday, June 24th, for them to come back out and assess the values of our properties. In conversations with TASB Risk Management Fund, this would not result in any change to the existing coverage and cost that will be implemented into the 25-26 year changes. But the document that's shared in the summation of the assessed values sets the aggregate limit for the district of the $208,389,405. So in conversations with TASB Risk Management, Lovejoy does have what is blanket coverage. So the limits are not identified as the individual property limits set forth in that summary. So we have an overall limit. So if we end up needing to have coverage to replace an existing school, we have the limits of the 208 and not the limits of the assessed value within that individual summary. So the applicable limits would apply towards the overall limit, which would then result in full coverage less the deductible for any replacement costs of our schools. So,
So are
Yeah.
these assessed values overly meaningful if it's not affecting pricing and it's not affecting our actual coverage?
yeah, so right now it just gives us the set limit. So the risk is in the event in the year, if we needed every single one of our properties to be replaced because of an event, then it wouldn't cover the entire cost because the limits are set based off that 208. So it does have some meaning to it from that perspective.
When they come look at the properties, just be mindful right now, a new elementary is about $400 to $500 a square foot, so.
Yep,
just have
absolutely.
that in-
We'll have those
yeah.
conversations on Monday, the 24th. And I'll be walking the properties with the assessor, and I'll ask those questions to how they're incorporating the inflation of construction into their assessment. So at this time, if there's no additional question, it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve the expenditures of budgeted funds for each of the TASB Risk Management Fund program renewals as presented.
One more question, Thomas. So next year, though, you're planning on going out to get multiple bids?
We
I know.
will
Just out-
explore and go through an RFP process. The last time we did the process, when I reviewed it, was in 2018, and we had no responses to our request. But we will look and explore to see if we can have cost-saving measures. Absolutely.
With that being said, I make a motion to approve purchasing the insurance for the property coverage and auto.
So moved, Mark Wheelis.
Second, Marvin.
Second, Marvin Bobo. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 17, consider an act on increases to the student nutrition meal prices.
So as mentioned in the budget presentation, in order for us to successfully have a balanced budget for the 24-25 year, one of the steps is to increase the meal price by 25 cents per meal. The last time that we considered and increased the rate was back in December of 2021. So the range, so at the elementary level, what we're proposing is to increase it from $3.50 per meal to $3.75. And then at the intermediate and middle school, depending on regular or premium, it goes from $4 to $4.25 or $4.75 to $5. And likewise at the high school, the regular from $4.50 to $4.75, and the premium at $5.25 to $5.50. So if there are any questions?
And this excludes the kids that are on the reduced lunches?
Yeah, this does not impact the students that are on the free or reduced meal plan, which our percentage is pretty low, so there's not very much impact to the students.
So we consider a motion to approve that, if you guys are okay with it?
I'll move that we approve the price change as listed in the document.
So moved, Marvin Bobo.
Second.
Second, Mark Wheelis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 18, consider an act on the 24-25 compensation plan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about the compensation plan. Wanted to first kind of start where, as Marvin mentioned early, this has definitely been a process for the past 3 years. As you can see, when we started our Lovejoy 2030 strategic plan, one key note there was financial sustainability, and referring back to strategic target 7.2.2. One of the strategies was to review contract days, job descriptions, and compensation before filling vacant positions, and we do that diligently. But also some of the key indicators was reviewing staffing and compensation against comparison districts, and we continue to do that also. there. So that started back about 2.5 years ago. Some of the highlights, I feel like we keep moving forward with our compensation plan, and some of the highlights that we did last year that I think that we are definitely gaining success for is last year we did a 3% salary increase for all staff. We raised that minimum wage from to $15 an hour. As y'all recall, we had people making less than $10 an hour, and that was significant. We kept a lot of our staff there. We did a special education. We increased the stipend last year to $5,000, and then we also increased the medical insurance contribution from $225 to $275. So going right along with that, this year in the financial budget, we have included all these things. So these are some things that we're proposing. We're proposing a 4% salary increase for teachers, librarians, and nurses, those on the salary scale. And so that would increase our starting salary from $53,717 to $57,000. We did not raise our starting salary last year. It remained the same for 2 years. And so this would raise that to $57,000. So we're super excited about being able to do that. We would do a 2% increase for all other employees. And we would raise the special education teacher stipend to $7,500. We feel like that's needed. Special education teachers are hard to find. We know they work with some of our most neediest kids, and it's very important that we keep them here and that we are able to hire them and fill those positions. Also, as Thomas mentioned earlier, an additional $50 a month for additional medical insurance contribution from the district, because as we said, that's going up from around 11 to 11.6% for medical contribution, or the monthly rates are. Okay. Here is our teacher, nurse, and librarian proposed salary pay scale. And of course, we did it through all 30 steps, 31 steps on there. And you can see the increase. So we did do with the 3% last year, and then of course, this 4%, that's what that is showing there. And I just wanted to give you a look at what our medical benefits and proposed district contribution do. So you can see where the rate is. I just used the top 2 plans, 171 on the Active Care HD plan, 171 staff members, and on the Primary Blue Cross plan, we have about 115 staff members on that. And so those are the monthly rates. In the pink is what the actual rate of what employees would pay. So as you can see, employee only is $513 on the HD plan, and they would pay $188 a month. And then 501 is the monthly rate on the Primary Blue Cross plan, and then the employee's contribution would be $176 there. But as Thomas also said, the $50 does, with the raise, it does pay 99%. So we're not, our teachers and staff would not be losing money there on the employee-only plan. Some other changes that are happening this next year, our TS Active Care Primary Plan maximum out-of-pocket for individual family increased from $550 and $1,100. So those were some increases there. The Active Care high deductible plan also increased for in-network, very same amount, $550 there. That should be $1,110. I see a mistake there. We'll get that fixed. The TRS Active Care HD plan for individual family deductible increase for in-network by $200 and $400, and out-of-network by $900 and $1,800. We are also going with a new cancer plan, Carrier Chubb, and they do have some slightly lower rates for some of that supplemental insurance there. Next year, last year we went out for rates and went out to bid for those, and this next year we'll do the very same thing. Those were good for 2 years. And if you'll recall, we went to MedLife. There were some savings there when we did that. Are there any questions about the compensation plan?
I'm super excited to see our starting salary go up to 57.
Yeah, we were too.
Starting to be more competitive with some of our neighboring districts. I have a random question. Why
Yes.
is step 29 and step 31 the same rate, but step 30 is higher?
That might be a mistake. It shouldn't be.
I don't mean to
Oh,
put you
yeah,
on the-
that is.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. Oh, let's
Okay,
take
no.
a look at that. Okay.
We will get that fixed. When we were putting it in, because we do this in Google, it sometimes changes it, so anyway, but we'll get that fixed. 31, is definitely higher than 30. Trust me, I'm there.
Thank you. I'm fully supportive of the stipends that you have there. I know you've had, trying to find the right people in those important roles are
Yeah.
important, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Other questions? If there are no other questions, it is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 compensation plan as presented.
Move that we approve the 2024-2025 compensation plan.
Second.
So moved, Jason James, second Jeff Wood, just to note that item on 31 to be updated correctly.
Yes.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, item 19, consider an act on the 24-25 District of Innovation Plan.
As you recall, at our last meeting, I shared back in May the District of Innovation Plan, and we went through our plan, just some highlights. Is good till April 24th, 2027. It was a 5-year plan. This came out of House Bill 1842. Of course, that does allow districts to access some of the same options as charter schools there. So we asked that we amend our plan, and these were actually our current exemptions that we had from that plan. And one was the first day of instruction, the campus behavior coordinator. That's just so that more than one administrator can serve as the campus behavior coordinator on a campus. Some that we're looking at is teacher certification and probationary contracts. As far as teacher certification, we do currently do what we call a DOI, District of Innovation, and this would allow certified teachers, once again, to teach outside of their specific certification, except in special education. So basically, if a teacher has one of the examples, if, teaching kindergarten, you have to have an EC certification, where a 1 through 8 teacher could teach in that field. So some of those types of things. We want to make sure that they are appropriately certified and they are trained and highly qualified to teach that field, but this would help also with, as we also scale staff and moving staff around, that they can teach in other areas there. Another one we looked at is changing a probationary contract. Our teachers on a Chapter 21 contract, this would just be changing those that meet the 5 of 8 rule. That means that they've taught the last 5 of 8 years. Instead of being on a 2-year probationary contract, this was just extended to a 3-year probationary contract. And sometimes that gives us just extra time to look at that person and making sure that they're a good fit for our district and that specific campus. Another one that was recommended by Mr. Percival was unauthorized persons on campus. And this is usually when we need to remove someone from a campus or a location. It's a volatile situation, and this would just allow us to eject that person without having to give them the paperwork, the appeal process, all those types of things. Of course, we would follow all the procedures there and follow back up, but that would be so we could immediately eject someone if we're in a situation like that. And the other one that we are recommending, Dr. Zambezi shared with us, right now, according to House Bill 114, if a student is caught vaping on campus, it's automatic DAP placement, and this would just allow the district to assign ISS or OSS, looking at the situation, particularly if it's a first-time offense, have other consequences perhaps that may be more appropriate without having to mandatory remove a student from their home campus. So those are the amendments that we're asking for your recommendation on. Are there questions about those?
So, think about how to ask it.
Okay.
Vaping, has that been a concern?
You want to talk up to that, doctors?
So yes, sir, it has been, and statewide, it was a really big topic, which is why this came into law. However, when we look at this, I think that what we're doing here is we would like it to be more of a conversation with administration and the family to review it holistically, and this gives us the opportunity to make the best decision for that student.
There's no doubt that there need to be consequences, and then there also needs to be the opportunity for some education of that student. And actually, we put in a program for when our students do have a vaping infraction, they go through an education program. And it has been wonderful, actually, to hear some of their responses and some of the eye-opening things that they have learned that it does to their body that they didn't really realize. And so we've actually had some good feedback from those students who've gone through that program. However, we know when there is the mandatory requirement to remove them from their campus, we are also removing them from a lot of other resources that we have available at that campus, not just educationally, but support-wise, counseling and things. And so there's no doubt there need to be severe consequences. This is a serious issue. But as much as possible, after those things take place, we very quickly want to get the student back into the classroom where they can learn at high levels, and then have the discretion if that behavior is not corrected and remediated, that we then can take that to the next level. This, unfortunately, I know it's very well-intended legislation, but it takes it from 0 to 100 sometimes, all in one fell swoop. And we have found that in some cases with our student, that probably wasn't the best course of action.
The item on probationary contracts, can you explain the 5 of 8 rule?
Basically, what 5 of 8 means is it comes with an experienced teacher. So anytime you hire a brand-new teacher, any new hire in the district that's a teacher, nurse, librarian, or what we would consider a professional position, Chapter 21, so your first year, you're on a probationary contract, okay? Then you can go up to the state by 3 years if you're brand new to teaching, no prior experience. However, if you come into the district with prior experience, you're only supposed to be allowed 1 year, as if you've taught the last 5 of 8 years. It can be confusing. I explain it a lot to teachers too. So anyway, so we're asking for 3 years of probationary.
The 5 of 8 is just 5 years of the last
The last 8 years, yes. So if you're hiring experienced teachers, yeah. Good question.
Any other questions? If not, I consider a motion.
I move that we approve the District of Innovation Plan as written.
So moved. Marvin Bobo, second. Julie McLaughlin, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 20 is our student achievement update. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. We recently received our STAR results for our end-of-course assessments and also grades 3 through 8. And those results were released for parents to access those as recently as this past Friday. So we wanted to give you information that we've had thus far as we've started to analyze our results and what we are hearing also from the state level as well. So what I've lifted up here, I've got Erin Perkins here, our Director of Elementary Instruction, because she plays a pivotal role in supporting this. But I wanted to, I think you have a copy of this presentation in front of you. So, but I broke it down by results by the content areas and had comparisons to the state performance levels and also with the district on the master's levels, meets levels, approaches, and also did not meet. So I'm just going to lift up some of the information that thus far that we've lifted up from the data. So when we look at STAR reading, that probably stayed the most steady of all the content areas across the district. We did show some improvement in master's level in 3rd grade reading over at Hart, and I want to also attribute that and lift up that also plays a part in what our kinder, 1st, and 2nd grade teachers are doing and the results that we're achieving in 3rd grade. Also improved master's level in 4th grade reading at both Hart and Puster. We maintained or increased in meets and the grade levels listed there, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. We did see a decrease in percentage of students who did not meet, which is a good sign in grades 3, 4, and 8. But we saw a increase of percentage of students who did not meet, a small percentage there in grades 5, 6, and 7. When we look at, now this is comparing, remember, it's not comparing the same group of students, these results, when we're saying if they made growth from year to year. However, I did want to lift up that we took these, what we would call a cohort, so our third graders from 22-23, we compared to how they performed in 23-24. So we did see an increase in master's levels for comparing from one year to the next in grades 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is looking at that growth measure. So when you look at math, again, we test those in grades 3 through 8, and Algebra 1 is our end of course assessment for math. We did maintain or increase meets levels and at third grade at Hart, and then fourth grade at Puster and Hart. We did see a decrease of students who did not meet in grade 3 at Hart and grade 4 at Puster. We saw an increase of percentage who did not meet in grades 5, 6, and 7, which was a little similar to our reading as well. But across the state, what's been reported and what we've seen is that they're showing a decline in mathematics across just across all grade levels that were tested. When we look at a cohort, when we look at the same group of students from last year to this year, we did see an increase in master's levels for grade 4 over at Hart. So we do want to lift that up and celebrate that. For our science is tested in grades 5, 8, and then biology is our end of course assessment. We did see an increased percentage of students that did not meet in grades 5 and 8 and also at the state level. So this was a pattern that we were seeing. So we're really trying to dig down into that to determine, we've gotten some information from a consultant with the state level and then looking at how our students are performing and what may have caused that. We did see a decrease in master's meets and approaches in grades 5, 8, and also at the state level. Also, the 2024 state results did show a decline in science across the board. So math and science were lifted up. So you may have seen that in the media about what the commissioner has been reporting about some of the results there. There were some test scoring changes in science as well, where we had, there were some questions that were human scored, where some AI testing scoring came up this year. But when we looked at our data, that did not seem to really have an impact, but we're going to dig deeper into that as well. So that was a change from the scoring this year. Social studies is tested in 8th grade and also in U.S. history is the EOC on that one. We maintained our student performance percentages in grade 8. We did increase in master's level at our U.S. history, and we had one of our teachers really made some great gains on that, and we were talking with the principals about maybe the gain, what that was attributed to, and there were some pretty innovative practices that she had in place, so we're trying to dial into that to see what made the difference. In state level, kids across the state held pretty steady compared to previous years. And then we're also kind of looking at some like districts, and I'll get some more data for you on that in the future too. We don't actually get the actual report on comparable districts, but that also is also interesting to take a look at to see how our kids are performing to districts that are similar to Lovejoy. Just for further analysis, we've got some more work to do on this. There is a tool that we can actually go in and we can look at the questions and the way that the questions were asked and analyze those questions. And parents can actually do that as well too with the tool that the access that they can get to the portal, and they can actually see how their student responded. So that is helpful information for us to take a look at. Again, we just got these, could get access late last week, so our department, and we've met with our principals too, so that they're going to be digging into this as well. Also, we're looking at the state performance trends. We anticipate more information will be coming. The impact on possible test scoring. We're also looking at team and teacher planning processes. So we're looking at teams that had some really great performance outcomes, and what were some practices that they had in place that got some of these outcomes. We're looking at lesson plans. We're looking at design of lessons. and also how teachers are using instructional time. And let me give you an example. So there may be where are we spending a lot of time on test prep or review of the test, and is that the best use of instructional time? And how our teachers are using that balanced assessment plan, because we really want to see that common formative assessment, which is those short, so that we can give more timely feedback and remediation. And then also just the funding impact that could have had on our results too. So more information to come, and we're proud of our students. We know there's some growth areas that we can definitely work on, and we're working on plans, and we already had some in place. I want to reference back to our curriculum resource system that I've talked to you several times about, that are going to be much more comprehensive unit planning guides, opportunities for teachers to remediate and extend also. So we do think that more robust resource will be helpful as teachers are planning their lessons. And the heart of what we do know is that it goes into the planning and design, and that definitely impacts the delivery of what's happening in our classrooms.
So question about the new map testing that we were doing this year, throughout the year. Can we analyze that data now that we have this data to see where there's correlations and where we can be more proactive in the future as well?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So really, MAP is an indicator, and we were looking at what MAP was indicating how we should perform. Some of it was tightly correlated well, some were not. I will say that the first year of implementation that we were looking also at the administration of the MAP assessments. We've got some work to do on that, but we should be using that as a predictor of how our students should be performing on these state assessments.
Wherever we were surprised, I'd love to understand why.
Right. And also keeping in mind when I talk about the balanced assessment plan, that also includes unit assessments and district benchmarks. So we were looking at our district benchmarks as well, and was that also an indicator? So it's really the timely responsiveness of using the data to adjust how we're delivering instruction in the classroom.
Do we suspect any of this is still from COVID? Is this some learning loss still recovering from that?
That's a great question. We've looked at that, and we've also looked at, let me give you an example of science. So force and motion was one of the areas that we didn't do as well on. And we're looking at where those skills were taught and what grade levels. COVID was one of the years that's pretty heavy in third grade. But again, if we're using and we still teach those skills, but we're assessing those along the way. So absolutely, I think COVID could have played an impact on this as well.
I'm just thinking, I'm looking at the grade levels for reading, and if your fundamental basic wasn't solidified during that time, that may still be. So I know they had legislation after for us to provide extra support. I guess we still are identifying kids that need that extra support, and they're getting that if needed.
Correct.
To still
Yes.
continue to close these gaps.
So House Bill 1416 does require, if a student does not perform satisfactory or does not meet standard on the state assessments, the required number of hours. We're looking at that as well, about where it's more effective. I know some of our campuses have incorporated into leopard time, but we've also had some campuses incorporated into before and after school tutorials as well too. So, and debate whether or not we do it during the summer. Where are we getting the most impact on that?
Other questions for Ms. Tinsley's presentation? Thank you very much. Item 21 is consider an act on board policy, EFB local. Dr. Tinsley.
Okay, thank you. So you have a copy of this presentation, and EFB local has to do with library materials, and so you have an outline of what in this policy, library materials, and what it actually includes. And the current policy, some things that this board, you have approved prior to this point. I want to lift up some things that I think are unique to Lovejoy and some practices that we have in place for this policy. It has been a focus of parental involvement and parent choice in what's going on, what we have our students are able to check out in our libraries. Also, you built into the policy protection from inappropriate materials. The selection and criteria is also listed within the policy. Also, parent consideration, so the option of parents, where parents could opt out of students selecting particular titles or accessing books from the library. That has been in place since fall of 2022. And then we also have had an expedited interim review process included in the policy, which allows us, if a book is put forward for a request for reconsideration, we can determine if it meets the guidelines and it would be pulled off temporarily while the book is under review. So just wanted to review what the current policy is outlines. And then also want to lift up on the next page there where it talks about our Lovejoy libraries. We do have a comprehensive process in place for selection and weeding of instructional library instructional materials, and we've done as you know, we've really got a pretty strong process in place now. We've got a good inventory system in place. I think after COVID, we were kind of recalibrating and just ensuring that what we had in our libraries met our selection process, but also we had a annual weeding process in place too that we had our librarians following. Parents currently receive a weekly report of the library instructional resources that their student has checked out. And as I mentioned, parents may have their student opt out with accessing specific library materials. We have also incorporated a significant amount of professional development for our librarians about the selection process and our board policy on EFB local, as well as our principals, assistant principals, and also members of the reconsideration committees, which also includes teachers and parents. So we've had since 2022 a significant amount of training that we offer our staff to support this. So what I'm bringing forward tonight to you is a consideration of a revision to this policy. And the revision would be is that considering that parents and guardians have a voice in what their students are accessing in our libraries, it's being recommended that we adjust the policy so that parents and guardians will have the sole decision to opt their student into access of all young adult fiction or higher age level books. Should parents or guardians not designate a selection to opt in, then students would not be able to access books from our libraries. And when we talk about young adult fiction, we're talking about the Willow Springs Library and the Lovejoy High School libraries. And those, correct, 12 to 18 is what we usually is classified as young adult fiction.
So young adult fiction is only available 12 to 18, Willow Springs.
That's how we classify the books, correct. Right. So what that would look like is that during our annual registration period prior to school starting, parents have to fill out the annual update their forms. There would be a form included into that parents would have to complete for registration purposes, and this would be annually, whether their student would opt into the library collection. And if they do not opt in, then students would not have access. And if parents did elect to opt in, they could still, let's say they opted in and there were certain titles they did not want their student to access, they could opt them out of specific titles.
So theoretically speaking, I could opt in for my child. And then to reiterate your point, if there were 4 titles I didn't want to be checked out, I could then opt her out of those 4 titles. So she'd have access to the collection with the exception of those 4 titles.
Correct.
So we have the resources to efficiently administer such a policy accurately?
Yes, sir.
And will the annual opt-in process, this will take place at Power School during the morning process?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. So within that, parents are required to update health information. It would just be part of an annual permission that we have to, information that we would gather from parents.
I think this is a really positive step forward to ensure that our parents are the ones making the decisions for their family in terms of what is appropriate reading. And so having both the opt-in to young adult fiction, that's a choice that the parents will make, and then also the opt-out for individual titles really feels like a comprehensive approach.
And the opt-in process is going to be really no different than what they've already been doing, a lot of choices that they're making in PowerSchool. So
Correct.
this wouldn't be a one-off, unique, got to go to this other place to do this. You would be doing this as a part of all the forms.
Included in the forms, yes, sir.
How will this be communicated to parents?
We plan to, if you approve the policy tonight, we do plan to communicate to parents tomorrow to anticipate the change. And then we will ensure that we include this, communicate to parents when we communicate about the registration process.
So we currently have an opt-out on specific titles in our policy, and that's been in effect, I think, since you said 2022, so 2 school years?
Yes.
And then this will be proposing an opt-in at the front end. If a parent is unaware what's in the library or doesn't have the time or inclination to vet specific titles, they can just not opt in altogether to the entire category of young adult fiction?
Yes.
And that would be for libraries at Willow and Lovejoy High School?
Yes.
I don't know if you mentioned it as part of the presentation or got that far, but what about the instance where a parent has not opted in and their child accesses and/or attempts to check out a book that their parent hasn't opted into? How will we address that?
What the administration is recommending, and this would be included in the proposed your approval for the student code of conduct, so it would be a violation if the student did access books without parent permission, and that would be take disciplinary action.
As part of the disciplinary action, would the parent be notified?
Yes.
You said that's something that we'll approve with respect to updating the student code of conduct before the
Right,
school
and
year?
we'll bring that to you prior, I believe it's the July meeting, we'll be bringing the code of conduct to you for approval.
I had one question about the weeding process. Is that a policy that's available publicly or incorporated into any of our documents at this point?
The district sets this calendar for that, the schedule for that, and so we have a rotation. We don't actually make that public. It's included within the policy that we are charged to ensure that we have a process for weeding and selection. Based on, as I said, we were kind of recovering after COVID, is that we, rather than alternating, many times districts will alternate years. One year you'll look at nonfiction, other years you'll look at fiction, but we knew that we really needed to become more familiar with some of the books that we had, so we have been weeding both this year. So that's been ongoing since 2022.
And so if the calendar for weeding is not necessarily available to the public, is at least the criteria utilized by the librarians for purposes of weeding? If someone wanted to know what that criteria is, would they be able to find that?
Well, it would be within the policy.
It's within the
If
FB?
we look to make sure it meets the selection criteria.
And I don't want to get too far afield, but if books are weeded, is there a log maintained as to what books are weeded?
Yes.
And why? And is that available?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, online, no, because we just have an inventory system, but it's something that some districts are doing, so it's something that's under review right now.
Yeah, and I would suggest, based on a recent, PIR where that information was had to be created from start to finish, a quarterly or a semester log of weeding might save some work down the road, or
Okay.
might, it's just a suggestion for y'all to look into and study if it's feasible.
Okay.
And then with regard to the opt-in, in terms of discussion, I want to share something from the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, which is their Collection Development Standards, which is a resource guide for school libraries, which was issued by TSLAC and I believe also approved by the State Board of Education. But on page 3, it says, parents and guardians, parents are the primary decision makers regarding their students' access to library materials, and that's set forth in Education Code Section 33.021D2D. It goes on to say that it is important to recognize the essential partnership between parents and districts in fostering effective and positive educational experiences for students, and a collection development policy should clearly articulate a district's approach to supporting parental involvement. And I say that because I believe we have done that with respect to the opt-out feature, which allows an individual parent to determine their own child's mental and emotional maturity in order to determine whether they can pull lessons, literary aspects from a text. And so I think this opt-in goes a step further, and I really do think that it is an even a more robust attempt to make parents the sole decision makers with respect to voluntary library resources. So I do approve this opt-in procedure as an added measure to what we were already doing and have been doing to foster parental choice.
I concur with those comments.
I have a quick question around the student code of conduct. I think you mentioned tomorrow you're going to communicate to families about the update to the policy. I'd love for encouragement to have dialogue with families so that students are aware of this policy also, so they know that their parents are either opting in or out, since this is such a new thing. Sometimes when parents sign student policy code of conduct, we don't necessarily have dialogue around that with our kids. So I'd love for us to lift that out to remind parents to discuss it with their children so everyone knows the policy and the expectation.
We can include that.
That's a great point.
So the item in blue that we have here is the suggested change.
Yes.
Okay, it's on page 3.
Make sure.
And the minor change on page 6. And now, in addition to the opt-in, we now see something where it says, anytime a reconsideration form is submitted, it is including a librarian and the Board of Trustees in the notification.
I believe that was a change related to the
That is a
TSLAC
change, yes.
guidance. Yep.
Mhm.
Are we ready for a motion?
Are.
I move that we adopt the revised EFB local policy as presented and discussed tonight.
Second.
So moved, Julie McLaughlin, second, Jeff Wood. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Item 22, consider an act on approval to purchase Willow Springs Middle School and Lovejoy High School library furniture and technology with bond funds in an amount that exceeds 75, in an amount that exceeds 75,000. Sorry.
So what we're coming forward tonight to ask your approval for is that, and this has been something even through our capital planning as we've been on our campuses and looking at our spaces, particularly our libraries, which is a place where our students gather, and particularly at the middle school and high school levels, is that we really would like to create an environment that's a little bit more future-ready centered, to where it becomes more of a hub, where it's a collaborative spaces for our kiddos. Digital fluency is embedded in that, and also creativity. And if you go, for example, if you go to Lovejoy High School, you'll see kids in there, and right now we have the desk or the study carrels, and we really don't have it set up to where they can sit in collaborative. And you probably have seen where they have more comfortable chairs and they're able to sit and at work tables and collaborate. So what we are looking for is a space that supports flexibility and collaboration, aligns with current space needed for digital and printed books. So as we're looking at our digital libraries, that's where we would probably grow more with some of our access for our students through our digital libraries. And since we are one-to-one now with our Chromebooks, we can support that where our students can access It also kind of enhances the functionality, as I was just mentioning, and it also kind of gets us more what you would see more in a traditional workforce setting, where it's moving away from the traditional classroom setting. So I've given you some photos there, just some ideas. This is not anything we have landed on, because we will be working, if you approve this, working with a vendor and with some recommendations of how we might utilize that space. But basically, it's really changing the furniture. So it might be lowering the bookshelves. It might be some flexible seating that you see. Also, some technology device support. So you might have some areas where kids could actually do some plug-ins with their devices as well too. And it might be to where we get some tablets for our kiddos that they could do checkout with in the library as well too. So that's what we're recommending, and what we would do is get a bid and determine, we'd like to see this in place for the 24-25 school year when our kiddos return. It wouldn't be changing anything structurally. It would just be changing really the furniture.
Excited about the idea to reinvest in that resource. The existing facilities seem, maybe the right word, stagnant, or certainly could be better utilized. I also feel like if more student-centric, we'd get better participation in some of those opportunities to engage. But you mentioned something about digital, which intrigued me, because I feel like younger kids probably would gravitate more to a digital experience more than they would a paper experience. Was that an accurate statement, or?
You know, it's hard to say. I would think they are if they have the devices. And this is our first year that we've had the one-to-one for everyone to have it. But generally, if you're going to go in there, you're going to see students with their devices in the library. So I would tend to lean toward that direction, is that they're more comfortable with the digital access than some of the more traditional hard copies of the books too.
So if we were to have more digital resources, would our ability to manage, talking about policies, manage those policies and to be more flexible and more creative with our library, would that enhance that, you feel like? It seems like it would expand it tremendously.
Absolutely.
But this particular request is for the actual physical presence of the library more than it is the digital resources. I guess that would be a next step, possibly.
Yes.
I think participating in Lovejoy 2030, I think there was lots of discussion that centered around not only creating future-ready skills, but also the collaborative learning spaces to be able to accomplish that. And I think there was a lot of community discussion centered around, making these spaces more collaborative, more learning, more up to date. And I think that's the intention here. And I think we can also all agree that when we go to SLI, there's architect firms there touting their new facilities and their new high schools and their new libraries, and I think I see a lot of this in those presentations and mock-ups. I see a lot of and I believe colleges are doing the same thing. They're going from more of a traditional library with the stacks and more of couches, tables, and modular furniture with respect to how they organize those spaces. And so I think that's a very good thing.
Question on the amount. So I know we're doing an amount that exceeds 75 because that's the delegation to the superintendent, right? Do we have an idea of what the upper end of this number is, though?
What we will be sure that we do is we're in the process of tentatively, because we'll wait on your approval, but if we have your approval, what we will do is formally meet with some different vendors. We will get proposals, and all of that will be sent to you in advance of us actually making the purchase, so that if you have any concerns about what that amount is, that you're able to let me know that. And then we also will commit to coming back to either a future board workshop or board meeting and sharing that all publicly, as well as some mock-ups of what that will actually look like when it is all implemented.
I think to get it ready for next school year, though, we need to give the flexibility to function as quickly as possible.
That, you're right, that is the challenge. Unfortunately, it'd be wonderful if we had a workshop in a couple weeks. Unfortunately, the next time we have a board meeting where we will have general items on the agenda will not be until July. And if we wait until that point in time to actually make the purchase, we would not have it done by the start of the school year.
And we're contemplating using bond funds
Correct.
for that?
Any other thoughts? If not, I'd consider a motion.
I'm not sure about the policy, but is there a way they could just email us the quotes and get approval that way without having an open board meeting?
It has to be a called meeting.
Yeah, we don't have any voting or authority outside of being gavelled in an official proceed.
Need to go directly to Katie.
I make a motion from to approve the, getting quotes and proceeding with the library purchase.
So move, Mark Wheelis. Second, Amy Smith. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Bearing on this next one, I'm going to abstain. It's regarding construction.
So item 23, just note that Mark Wheelis abstained. Consider an act on the RFQ with architect, Mr. Willman.
Okay, good evening, Board. As you may recall, during the May regular board meeting, the administration brought forth our ranking of the 3 architect firms who responded to our RFQ in April. Since the approval in May, we have engaged in conversations with our first-ranked VLK, and during those conversations, we firmly believe that they can meet our expectations in regards to timeline and cost of the services that they're providing. The selection of VLK will cost the district roughly $35,000 for their services and leading the work of capital facilities planning, design, and communication services. When doing our research and contacting other districts to kind of see and do a comp analysis to see what they paid for similar services, it ranged from districts our size to much larger districts where the costs range from $42,000 to roughly $278,000. So we believe that the $35,000 cost is within an appropriate range for a district our size. This cost does exclude the cost for the use of a third-party consultant, which is Transcend that they use. We recommend Transcend facilitate the community committee through the bond planning process, and we'll bring forth the cost for that third-party consultant to the board for consideration during the July 2024 regular board meeting. So at this time, if there are no questions, it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve VLK to assist Lovejoy with the comprehensive capital planning and architectural design services.
Is this bond funds or M&O?
At this time, we're going to be using general fund because they are helping us navigate and identify our facility plans that will then lead to a potential for a new bond election. Going down that path, we are able to bring forth a resolution that will allow us to reimburse us for these costs with those hopefully future approved proceeds. Great question.
If there are no other questions, I would consider a motion.
I recommend that we hire VLK as our architectural firm for the facilities planning design.
So move, Marvin Bobo.
Second.
Second, Jeff Wood. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 24 is cabinet reports.
I just wanted to give a quick overview of what we've got going on in C&I during the summer. We've been busy with curriculum writing, and one of the areas I wanted to lift up that we are doing some more work on in curriculum writing is physical education and fine arts. So they have not always been a part of that process or that we've had with curriculum writing, but we've got got them involved, and we really appreciate our teachers coming up here and helping. We've also brought some additional consultants and experts in some of these areas too to help us with ensuring that we have resources for all of our teachers in those specialized areas. Also, we're excited. We're going to be bringing to you in the fall some plans that we've got with a comprehensive pre-K through 12 STEM program. In fact, we met today as a team, and we're super excited about what we're getting ready to publish out for our community to be aware of what we're doing with STEM programming. Some of our staff members attended a 2-day workshop last week that's provided by the state of Texas on STEM education. And also hoping that we can reinstate our STEM council, which involves parents and community members as well in supporting our STEM instruction. My community credit union, construction's going on over at the high school right now. We've got Mr. Korb and Mr. Percival that are helping us with that. So we've got the contractors over there that are refurbishing and that area. So our goal is, I think we're shooting to maybe have that done around July 26th. So hopefully we're going to meet the deadline on that and have it ready to roll. Of course, Learning Lovejoy is a big part of what we do as far as planning, and we're getting ready for that and ramping up for that. That'll be that we are bringing new teachers back for 1 day before everyone comes, which is new this year. We did not do that. We did that this past year, and we got some good feedback on it. So we are paying new teachers to come in for 1 additional day, and then all of our staff will return, and we'll have some district-led, but also some campus-specific professional development. Summer enrichment camps, a lot of fun things are going on over here during the week and out on our fields, and so it's fun to watch our kids having a good time. And then through technology, we've have been completing a cybersecurity assessment, and then also a pretty comprehensive inventory when it comes to technology here. So just wanted to give you an update on all the wheels that are turning regarding curriculum and instruction.
You never stop. Right, it never stops. I was just curious, when would parents receive some of the new information about school starting? I can't believe I just said that because my kids are still trying to have summer, but when Walk the Springs or Walk the Creek, this would be information that would come, closer to this.
Yes, it will be. And we are planning to, last year was the first year that we coordinated and had that on 1 day, and it seemed to work well. So, yes, that information. And I thought our campuses had some of that out, but we'll make sure that they have that on their websites of communicating what day that is, because we have determined the date on that.
Okay, good evening. So as far as the finance updates, we have a lot of work going on this summer as well. First and foremost, we have successfully completed our setup with CityCard. So we'll be transitioning. So the district currently uses multiple credit lines, such as we use American Express for our main credit card purchase, but we also use like Walmart, Capital One, Lowe's, and so forth. So what we're doing is we're going to eliminate all of those different cards, and we're going to focus on just using our CityCard as our means for purchases. This switch will allow us to earn 2.5% cash back on all credit card purchases. What we're also looking at, and we're going to work on this summer, is exploring. So we have roughly a $5 to $6 million non-personnel general fund budget. What we would like to do is work with our current vendors and see if they'll accept credit card payment in lieu of our check processing and AP at no charge, processing charge to us. So that way we can earn the cash back, the 2.5% on that as part of our AP process, and then also hold on to our cash for an additional 30 days so that way we can invest that cash. We're also working on leveraging their expense management tool so that the way there's a communication between their system and ours to kind of eliminate some of the paper pushing that we're doing at our schools to build capacity to allow them to take on additional work or additional projects. And that's kind of the theme for our department this summer. We're looking at, while preparing for the 23-24 audit, we're also looking at different processes where it's really heavily driven approval workflows through paper pushing that we can automate and push it through like Google Forms or other platforms. That way we can just continue to build capacity to take on new work and maybe explore areas for efficiencies. And then also from the student nutrition side, we're really looking to see how we can continue to bring options for our students at our schools. So we're going to go out for a request for purchase for the student nutrition side as it relates to the a la carte, mainly at the secondary level, to provide different choices. Right now, the focus will be for the chicken sandwiches. That's all that we have. Any questions?
And at the end of the very last day of school, we always do an end-of-year celebration and service award. And this year, of course, we had a wonderful time again. Some of you were out there. Jeff and Marvin were able to stop by that Friday afternoon. It's super, super hot, but we had such a great time of fun and fellowship. Here are some pictures. I love Louise King down there. She has her tongue stuck out because she was eating Kona ice, a little shaved ice there, but it was just a great time, and we did recognize those employees. We had 5, 10, and 15, and 25-year employees that we recognized. We also did we did those that had retirements that day too. So it was a fun day. We had 9 Square out there, just all types of games and going on, and just really had a good time. Just as we end the year there. Of course, we also did the third annual tug of war contest that we do every single year, and Sloan Creek walked away with it again. So now they will have, at 3 years, their name's on the trophy twice there, and so they were super excited. And I do want to thank we had great sponsors. MCCU, my community credit union, was a sponsor. They sponsored Rudy's for us and Kona Ice. And Janine was there, and Jackie had flown in to attend and help serve and those types of things. And Ryan Cave from Cave Realty helped, Tanya Walker. We just have some great community support. And it was so nice to see some of them there out celebrating with our teachers there. So super excited that we're able to do that. Next year, every year we try to make it bigger and better. We had also had given away quite a few gift cards to our teachers. So lots of fun. Hopefully next year it won't be as hot and humid as it was this year. So.
Good evening. HR gets all the fun stuff. So before I jump into my cabinet update, which will be very brief, I did want to wish the dads a belated Happy Father's Day. Hope you guys had a great day and got to spend time with family and kiddos. So just briefly, just a quick update from transportation. So Michelle Leisure, the director over there, has been really busy with her team, working on fleet maintenance. All of that is done internally as much as we can with our staff of 1 mechanic. So Eric has been getting after it over in transportation and working through. We've got some fleet that are up for state inspection this summer. He's been working through those and working through just our preventative maintenance schedule, along with preparations for our annual state reporting that happens next month and is due on August the 1st. Mr. Littlefield over with Safety and Security has been working through some summer projects. One of those, if you're out at the campuses over the past week, you'll notice updated signage as you approach. So those have been updated at all campuses, including this campus. So pay attention to those. There's some pretty good updates that we've done on the signage. It does specifically state that we do have armed marshals present at each campus when you pull onto the property. So Casey's worked really hard at doing some redesign on that and coordinated that with our maintenance and grounds department to get those up. I think they got them all up and in the ground in like 2 days. So shout out to those guys. And then Marshall Jaquez recently completed his FAA Part 107 remote pilot certification. So that's a really nice thing for us to have. That drone can, and I know Casey's talked about it here before, but just to reiterate, that's something that can be utilized and deployed from anything tactical and response to maybe open air venues where we've got lots of people attending just for general surveillance. So it's a really nice feature that he's added to our marshal team and just to our overall toolbox from a safety and security standpoint here in the district. And then lastly, maintenance, grounds, and custodial are working a lot together this summer. We're finally starting to get caught up and dig out from all the rain. So if you drive by campus, some of them, like today, I'm over at Willow checking on a situation, and about 3/4 of it was complete. So they'll finish that one up tomorrow, and then they'll move on. But both our grounds, maintenance, and custodial have teamed up this year, and so they're pulling everybody together, and they're helping kind of each other out so that it's a little bit less burdensome. And so they've kind of rotated through the campuses, and they'll continue to do that through the end of this month and July as we get geared up for the new school year. Any questions that I might could answer? Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, good evening. I'm going to share with you a cabinet report from Student Services. First of all, as you saw tonight, Lovejoy High School baseball, best season in school history, was down there with many of you in Round Rock. We beat Magnolia West really in the Final Four to advance to the state championship game on Saturday. That Saturday down in Round Rock, we went behind early and then clawed back, and man, it was just one of the best experiences I've ever had a chance to see. And our kids fought back, and then unfortunately in the bottom of the 7th, Grapevine was able to score a run, but state runner-up finish with Coach Groh and our team, and just first state tournament appearance in school history, and says a lot. So really proud of them. And then that's an example of the success that we've had here throughout the year in athletics, but also I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the rankings that came out on June 13th, the fourth and final calculation of the Lone Star Cup. And the results become official and finalized on July 1st. But we did get a chance to look at the rankings on the UIL website and some social media. And before we get into it, one of the most Team Lovejoy things that I can think of is the Lone Star Cup. UIL academics, every conversation in the classroom matters. Fine arts, every rehearsal matters, every concert matters. Athletics, every practice matters, every game matters, every championship matters, et cetera, et cetera. And then the parents getting up to take their kids to those things. And just that relationship, collaboration, it really represents all of our pillars. It represents what we stand for. Kids come first. And I'm really proud of our district and our school. And so as you see there, yes, it becomes official on 7/1, and they have to verify some rankings, but we didn't just win in this calculation. The next closest school is 18 points away. To put this into perspective, last year Argyle won it with 96 points, so winning it with 109 points, and in winning on July 1st, winning the Lone Star Cup for the third time in the history, but for the first time in over a decade, and for the first time ever in 5A, really says a lot to what our community as a whole is doing. And thank you everyone in this room and all of you for your support.
That is awesome. I look forward to celebration of that. As much as we talk about things, I think celebrating that and helping people understand what that truly translates out into and what it means will be great. So I look forward to probably multiple opportunities to communicate about that and educate our families about the holistic approach to success that's translating through to the kids.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Is that it for cabinet update, I believe? So, Ms. Cordell?
Thank you, Mr. Owens. Do want to underline that celebration of the Lone Star Cup, but also what it meant to get there when we think about what Dr. Zambezi was saying in regard to our students, our teachers, our coaches, our directors, and just their sustained and relentless commitment over time. That big success represents a lot of small failures, a lot of perseverance, a lot of using setbacks as fuel for improvement and growth, and our students have done a remarkable job of that. And We're so proud, and even more proud of how they've conducted themselves with such character and integrity as they have pursued that excellence in academics, fine arts, and athletics. So very proud of that. Also very proud that we have been managing to accomplish something like that in an atmosphere of significant financial challenges. We adopted the budget tonight. Adopting that budget has been with great sacrifice each and every year, making choices to be more efficient, and in that atmosphere of becoming more efficient in order to sustain our district, continuing to keep as much as possible a focus on that student experience and a focus on excellence. And I'm really proud of the way we've come together to do that. I think it shows absolutely in the results. And then wanted to thank our Congressman Keith Self, who had a celebration in the area and a recognition for students who are going into service academies. And he hosted on Saturday for Nick Urad, as well as a number of other students from the area, other high schools that are going to service academies such as West Point, like Nick is. Dr. Zambezi and I were able to attend, and it was pretty special to see Nick, his commitment to service above self, honored. And we're just so glad of the level of community support and recognition for that commitment. And we wish Nick every success and certainly are grateful for his sacrifice and his eventual service.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Ms. Taylor, any public comments related to non-agenda items this evening?
President Owens, there are no comments.
Thank you so much. With that, we would be...
Any announcements?
No, do you have one?
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's
Belated.
Day. Yeah, with that, we're adjourned.